Welcome to I Write Out Loud. I am Dana Dubois. Oh, it's awesome. Oh, hi, Matt. Good to see you here. Hi, Laura. I see a bunch of folks were waiting as soon as I came live. That's so exciting when that happens. I I think I started a minute late. I have to blame this little creature right here, Miss Kira, who's shown up for the show right beforehand. She's like, I need to go out right now. So, hi, Karen. Good to see you too. I miss you guys. As many of you know, I was not on the Daily Whatever show this morning. I finally acknowledged what has been clear for nearly 2 weeks, which is that I'm pretty sick and I can't seem to kick it. And so last night I was like, Lawrence, can you take the show? And he graciously did. And I slept till 8:30 in the morning, which I think did a lot of good for me. Kira, oh, let's see you here. You want that? There she goes. She's got her treat, so hopefully he'll be quiet. Excuse me. So this is my first live today. I've mostly been alone today here in my house. I'm working on some writing for a new essay, which is exciting. I am also playing with Claude because, as I told all of you, it's time to move from ChatGPT to Claude, because ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, is doing very, very, very bad things with the Trump administration and its Department of War, as they're calling it. So I feel very good about telling you all that. But I do have to tell you all that Claude is being a real asshole sometimes. I feel bad. I'm swearing at my new bot friend a lot because it's making a lot of mistakes. And I've been hearing anecdotally from other writers, as well as seeing online, that they are overloaded. They are overloaded. So 1.5 million people quit ChatGPT to move to OpenAI. Or sorry, other way, when they quit OpenAI/ChatGPT and they move over to Claude and Anthropic, I guess they're having a bit of a backlog. So good to see. Matt, thank you for popping in. You're not going to be here for story time, but you can always listen in the recap. For those of you who might have missed it, I was on Matt McNeil's show yesterday. We were live on air in Minneapolis, and it was simulcast over on Blue Amp Media. It was really fun. As soon as Blue Amp posts it, I'll be able to post it on Dana Dubois Writes as well. So you can go back and listen to that recap too. I like to start these in the first few minutes by kind of saying hello to everyone. In this case, catching you up a little bit with the state of me. In a few more minutes, I'm going to jump into the story. I just like to give folks a little time, like the first 7-8 minutes to roll in. I am curious, and I'm going to ask you guys all a question while we're waiting. I've set a calendar. I've set a scheduled time when I post my stories and then when I do these lives. And right now, the Wednesday live that's for the Tuesday post, the first story of the week, I have it at this time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. my time here on the West Coast. Is this a good time? I mean, you all are here, so I assume it works for you all. I may need to ask Substack more largely, but I'm never quite sure when people are free to chat about stories for an hour. I debated between 4 or 5 p.m. my time, so 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. If you have thoughts, Tarek says it works for him. Please feel free to weigh in the chat or to just DM me and let me know, because the schedule may change, because I do want to have lives when it works and people can show up. Ginger says it's good for her too. Good. Speaking of things that are good, I'm still going to be drinking tea. You can probably hear my voice is not back. I'm also a little shaky. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I think it's probably more a reaction to all the medication I'm taking than sickness. But phew, just I haven't been bowled over by sickness like this in a long time, and it's weird that it's not COVID or the flu or the something. I haven't even had a fever. It's just now almost 2 weeks of this crazy virus or whatever it is. So thank you for being patient with me while I get well. Those of you who were on Sunday for the Sunday salon, I was so sick. I think I went through 50 tissues. So special thanks to all of you who stuck with me through that. And I think I'm going to at least jump in and say, welcome to I Write Out Loud. This is my corner of Substack where I talk about memoir, and specifically about my personal essays. And it's about how those essays connect to the world around us, right? I am a pattern detector. That's kind of who I am and what I do. I note patterns. And in writing these stories where I see things that are happening to me and the people around me, um, they are generally bigger cultural conversations to be had. And today's essay is a huge example of that. Um, so I thank you all for being here. My story, it's called I Write Out Loud in part because I read all of my stories out loud. So if you go to the page for today's essay, which I will grab and share here as we're talking, you can, if you wish, hear me narrating the story because I want it to sound the way I want it to sound, not sound like a bot reading it. Um, Full confession, I had to record this one sick because I've been sick since I've written it. So there may be a few little like, pauses in there, but we do the best we can. Oh wait, I'm not logged in here yet. That's why I can't. I'm like, where do I put the link? Yeah, I'm like running a little stupid while I'm sick is what I'm finding. But here's today's story. I Write Out Loud is my home for my personal essays, both past and present. I am building a beautiful archive for them where I speak all the stories, where they all have a common look and feel, and where there's one destination where you can come find all my work. And I think as I share more and there's more of it out there, I'm going to start putting categories. So you can, if you want to sort and read them by stories about dating and relationships, stories about family or parenting or beauty or aging, like I'll classify all of them and you'll be able to sort. But for right now, I think I'm at like 25 or so stories, maybe. So they're all up there and they are all up ahead of the paywall always. My stories are, and they're live voice recording of me narrating them always there. And these lives will always be ahead of the paywall. Lawrence and I both like to say we follow the NPR model for our individual endeavors as well as the Daily Whatever Show. But if you are able to come on as a paid subscriber, that helps me bring this work to life. It helps support this project at a deeper and more meaningful level. And I will be forever grateful if you can. So many of you have. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I now have a check mark on my own. I have passed 100 paid subscribers and I can't even tell you what that means to me. It's just immense. So thank you. For paid subscribers at all levels, I also host the Sunday Salon, where we dive in even deeper to some of these stories and the cultural conversations we need to be having around them. I also spill some tea, some background about other things that were going on that maybe didn't make the cut of the story. They're super fun. They're really intimate gatherings, those Sunday salons. I have been enjoying them very much, even when I was so sick at this last one. And for founding members, of which I now have 6, yay, you guys, that's so awesome. You also get a session with me, one-on-one to talk about writing, editing, podcasting, your favorite movies, what you think of the new Bridgerton series. I love it. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I am here to talk about it with you. So thank you all for being here. And with that, I think it's time to jump into today's essay. And hi, a bunch more of you have joined since I started saying my individual hellos. Today's story is called I Made My Daughter Visit Her Misogynistic Grandfather. I have written a lot about my father, her grandfather. His name is Mitch. It is his real name. I use it. I feel okay about that. And I think a lot of you know this because I have spoken about him on past I Write Out Louds and shared other stories about him. But this is this is a fresh story, and it is about when we were just there a couple weeks ago. And what I'm finding is it's been great to go back and revisit my old stories to start identifying these narrative arcs that are happening when I string them together. But there is still nothing like bringing a brand new essay to life and sharing something really freshly created. So I'm so excited to be here today and talk about this one. Um, the subhead of the story is She Didn't Want to Go. I Took Her Anyway. I'm Still Not Sure I Was Right. That's the very TLDR of this whole story. And I do have some notes on it, which I'm going to pull up here. So the story started from something very ordinary. My dad lives in memory care in Florida, where I grew up. My mom also lives in Florida. But she is very well. They have not been together for decades, and they don't speak. They're as different as two different people can be and live completely separate lives. So when we go to Florida, we stay with my mom, but I always go visit my dad, and he he knows who we are. His dementia hasn't progressed to that point yet where he doesn't. But he is certainly low functioning and from one moment to the next doesn't remember what he has said. The little bit of backstory on that is just that he was a very difficult person my whole life growing up. Just very angry. Trump reminds me of my dad. From New York, yells a lot, type A personality kind of guy, and very misogynistic and very xenophobic, racist, all the things you would think of that go together. And there were times during my coming of age where I was like, do I cut him off? Do I do it so, I see people starting to do now and just sort of just lob off that limb of my family tree? And ultimately I decided, no, he has stayed in my life, but very much from a distance. And so now I go visit him 2 to 3 times a year and then kind of 2 to 3 visits per visit to Florida. So in the article I say I put in about 1 full work day per year, about 8 hours, and that's plenty. He doesn't remember I've been there. I've written about it before of like, why do I still go when he can't remember it? And the answer in large part is like that it is for me. Um, and that's why I've maintained that relationship, because I don't think I want to live with the version of myself who cut him off. It took many decades into my life to be able to finally say he was abusive, verbally abusive. He never, to my knowledge, physically hurt anyone. He's just he's just an asshole. He's a hard guy to be around. Lawrence can attest. He grew up with me. He can tell you how difficult he was. My children, though, have had very little exposure to their grandfather. Um, and so usually on the trips to Florida, once a year they come with me and we go in February when they're on break from school. The other time I tend to just go by myself. So they only see him once a year. I just make them go for one of the visits during our trips typically. And so on this particular visit, a couple weeks back, I went on the first visit by myself. And then on our last day in Florida, I took them with me for a visit. They knew that's what the deal would be. That's what the deal always is. We get beach, sun, pools, delicious restaurants, lots of fun. And then we also spent an hour or so at my dad's memory care. Um, so my this trip, my older daughter started being pretty petulant about the day before, about how first she started tossing out like, I don't want to go. And I was like, yeah. None of us want to go, but we're going. And it got a little more insistent. Um, and I write in the story of like, it puzzled me. Why did she not want to go? And, me being me, I'm like, did something happen to her? Is this more sensitive now? I kind of probed around it, but my conclusion was, no, this is just my kid not wanting to do it because it's not fun. And I insisted that she go because as her parent, um, I think that that's what we parents do. We have to teach our kids resilience and we have to teach them that sometimes we have to show up even when we don't want to necessarily. But what happened in that room eventually throughout the course of us being there and throughout the course of the story made me question if I made the right parenting call. But it did more than that. It ended up being around generational tolerance and what we choose what I have chosen to accept and what younger generations like my daughters may not accept. It got into the idea of generational tolerance versus family obligation. And I butted up against, when does resilience hit up against complicity? And who wins that tug of war? So this one came from a hard spot because with most of my essays, I have a pretty firm point of view by the time I finish it of what happened and what right and wrong were. And with this one, I'm still really torn. And so I hope that we can all, towards the end of this essay, that we can all have a conversation around, did I do the right thing? Would you have done the same thing? What have you done in your life to deal with similar situations? If you feel comfortable sharing, I would really welcome you to contribute here because I'm still not sure. And I haven't had a return conversation yet with my older daughter. So, and she doesn't know about this essay. And even that's starting to feel a little strange because she's 18 now, right? So like all of the questions become a little different when it's like, well, this is an adult. This is now a legal adult that I'm parenting. So, mm. so, um, let me start here. My dad, well, never dangerous in terms of like physical harm. I'm a little distracted. Lynette, thank you for saying that I seem to be feeling better. I'm feeling a bit better. I'm still fighting it, but I think I'm on the upswing. Thank you. This cold has sucked. So thank you. Um, so I don't think like I fully get why being around my dad can be fraught. But my children have done very little of it. And so um the question of watching my daughter be so uncomfortable, you'll see throughout this essay, it was hard for me and still is because there's that Gen X, like, suck it up, buttercup, um, feeling rising in me of I use a lot of metaphor around weather in this essay and how I was taught to brave the storm by dressing for it. And these kids may opt to want to move to a different climate. It's kind of the metaphor I use, but to continue kind of that nature metaphor, this got cut from the final essay, but the thought that went through my head was like, kid, I grew up in with an ocean. You can endure a splash for an hour. A wave can hit you and you'll be fine. I'm here protecting you because I'm holding the ocean back. I did that my whole life, right? So there was a huge resilience piece for me. And this idea of what we do for family. Um, but the other layer of it that's really important to bring in the story is my dad never has had a framework really for relating to women and girls as anything other than their physicality. It's all about their appearance. And um, he now has dementia. He's 81. That is never going to change. He is long past the point of that changing, right? And so we get there. Every visit when you're with my dad, like, he finds something and he tends to kind of obsess on it. And because I trigger things for him, he tends to sort of dwell on his late wife. "Oh, did you know Ruth died?" And he can kind of, like, fall into a little depressed hole when I'm there because it's, like, new for him again and to wallow, and so I've learned that I need to redirect when that happens and to be like, "I know, it's really sad. I was here. I'm so sorry. Hey, do you wanna see pictures of my dog?" You know, to bring him out because there there's not a lot to be gained by going back down into that hole. I'm never quite sure what it is that he's going to settle on. But in the case of this story, he really hones in on my two daughters' physical appearance. he repeatedly keeps saying, "You're so beautiful. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful." And then he every time turned only to my older daughter and said, "She could be a model." And he has this very strange affect now that it's like kind of blunted and kind of like little boy sounding in his big, deep voice. "You could be a model. Oh my God, you're so beautiful." Like over and over. And in my mind, I'm checking my notes here because I don't want to skip anything. Um, I know he perseverates. We all know that that's going to happen. But this is what he chooses to perseverate on, this same loop. And I'm checking in with my two kids. I'm looking at my younger one, like, she's kind of getting disrespected because he's in essence telling her she's not as pretty as her older sister. And I'm checking in with my older daughter because do I have a bag nearby? She's carrying her giant purse and she's just like cowering behind it. She's just trying to shrink as much as she can. And I'm watching her and I'm concerned. I'm dealing with this myriad of emotions on the fly, right? I'm concerned. I don't like seeing my child unhappy. I'm trying to connect with her. And usually when the three of us go, we're a united front of like eye roll, right? We're just like, oh my God, that's grandpa being grandpa. But this time my younger daughter's doing that with me. And my older daughter is like horrified. And she is not letting me in. Also, I'm really distracted right now because I think that Substack has put like a beauty filter on me. Like, jump in if I'm wrong, but my eyes are bigger and my skin is really smooth, right? Like, I feel like I'm on Snapchat, like when my kids and I would play with Snapchat, which I haven't done in a while. But um, hold on, I gotta look at my big screen. Like my light in here is off because it always is, but uh, yeah, I guess thanks Substack. I'm talking about beauty, and you're correcting the way I look, which fair. I'm a little rough around the edges. I've been sick for 2 weeks, but yeah, I I look different. Okay. I look like I've had a glow up. So hi, Substack. Let me continue with the story. I'm a little freaked out that they did that, but that's okay. So I'm checking in with my kids. I'm trying to relate to them, and my oldest child has me cut off. She's pissed. And she has me lumped in like with my father as the perpetrator because she didn't want to be there. And here he is doing this thing, right? And so I'm worried, I'm hurt that she's cutting me off and not letting me in. And I'm also, if I'm being completely honest, I'm annoyed because again, I'm like, I endured the ocean. This is a splash. Is he telling you you're beautiful over and over because he has dementia? Like, just say thank you and change the subject. Can you really not do this and just like honor your grandfather and be done with it? These things are looping through my mind. And I might want to pause and read part of the story now. Um, I could read the funny part. So, trying to decide which part of this to read. I should have done that before I got on the live here. Um, yeah, there's a couple parts I want to read. So, I'm going to read the earlier part first. And this is a part I haven't spoken about yet. So, um, on this trip, the first visit when I went to see my dad, I went by myself. And it was in the morning. He just got I saw he was there. I was there when he got out of bed, took him down to breakfast, and I sat with him while he was eating his breakfast. And he has, oh, hi, KR. I am feeling a bit better, still kind of cruddy, but I've got my tea here and I've rallied. For those of you who maybe missed it, KR was our awesome guest on the Daily Whatever show this morning, and Lawrence covered the show for me so I could sleep, and I slept until 8:30. Normally, I wake up at 5:30 for the Daily Whatever show, so it's super helped. And, I'm sorry we didn't get to chat care. I know you will be back because you are one of our favorites. We always have you back on. Okay, so I've arrived for the first visit to see my dad. He has a new suite mate, and this gentleman is also his, table mate at breakfast at this small table, and he's pretty low functioning. The unit my dad lives in is like a transitional unit where it's for patients with, you know, notable enough dementia that they need to be in a locked 24/7 unit, but they tend to either be ambulatory, um, let me put it this way, they're all out of bed all day. They're not, like, bedridden. They have activities to try to stimulate and keep them going, so it's like it's not quite a nursing home where there are people who are in bed all day and do nothing and aren't able to be up and moving about. This gentleman is up in his wheelchair, but he is, from what I can see, not able to talk. He is grunting and groaning a lot, but it seems to be involuntary, and he doesn't have control of his oral secretions. He's drooling. And yes, I used to be a speech therapist who worked with the elderly, so I have some experience with these things. I'm not gonna try to diagnose him, but there's clearly damage, right? And so he's sitting at the table kind of groaning, but I am really comfortable around this population. I believe in dignity first. And so I'm like, "Hi there, I'm Dana. I'm Mitch's daughter." And he just sort of blankly groans. And I'm like, "Okay, well, I have said my hello." And I turn my attention back to my dad. And a minute later, this gentleman, well, a moment later, this is what happens. I'm going to read you this part of the story because I think it's good. And if you were on the Daily Whatever show later the day I went to this, and had this experience, you heard the story already because I did tell it on air because it was a lot. So, the first visit this trip happened a couple days earlier, alone. No need to put my girls through a grandpa visit twice. I sat next to my dad at excuse me. I sat next to my dad at breakfast. His new roommate, Stan, seated across from us. Stan is new since my last visit and lower functioning than most residents on this unit. Wheelchair bound, largely nonverbal, communicating mostly in grunts and groans, with strands of sticky spittle trailing from his lips. Still, basic dignity is a must, so I say hello. "Hi, I'm Dana," I enunciate clearly and with a smile. "I'm Mitch's daughter." I get a blank stare back and a bit of a groan, but it appears more reflexive than directed at me, so I turn back to my dad. Dad's locked in on his meal. He's supposed to be on an 1,800-calorie daily diet, but it looks like he'll exceed that on breakfast alone. Eggs, sausage, bacon, pastry, fruit. I make a mental note to mention this to my doctor. A verbal outburst from our table mate jolts me from my musings. I think I hear the word melon. Startled to hear him speak an actual word, I wonder at first if he's hungry and coveting my dad's immoderate breakfast. But no, I look his way and he shout grunts in my direction. "Big melons!" This inarticulate, and until this moment, non-articulate hull of a human has roared to life to sexually harass me in front of my father, who is oblivious. "Big melons! Big melons!" Stan chants. My hackles raise and I stare him down. "What did you say?" I ask. I can see his eyes aren't vacuous. He's fully aware what he's saying to me. And he's glancing at my dad to see if the other man in the room noticed and wants to chime in. My dad is too busy gnawing on his sausage to notice. What would he have done? I wonder. My dad has long been king of the inappropriate comments. I'm grateful he didn't, so I don't have to consider his reaction, only my own. I nearly pop off on Stan, but then I see the spittle line from Stan's mouth break into two and a blob hit the table with a silent plop, and I sigh. I'm not going to teach him anything by berating him, so I ignore him. Instead, I ponder how there's another truth I don't like admitting. Men like my father don't just live in our family history. They create a kind of weather system around them. Other men seem to sense it and lean into the atmosphere. The same casual sexual commentary, the same reflexive reduction until suddenly women find ourselves standing in the middle of a misogyny storm we didn't start but somehow recognize. As a Gen X woman, my instinct has often been to avoid rather than confront, to manage the weather instead of insisting it change, the strategy many of us were taught. Who among us can change the weather? But in the era of Trump and Epstein, I find myself wondering whether that stance is strong enough. It's worked more or less for me, but is it strong enough now for my daughters? I can't be certain. My dad finishes his meal and his aide and I wipe him up. His table mate watches us leave, his vocalizations returning to grunts, not words. So that's one of the earliest parts of this story. And so, sorry about Kira barking. Another dog was barking outside, and she was like, "Danger, danger! There's a dog out there. I'm just alerting you." Um, but that's the intro to the story, and with it, I'm setting this premise up of me facing down, you know, a dude calling out about my tits, which, by the way, are amazing, and I know that. But it's different when I say it, and acknowledging that it's so pervasive that this man is, like, barely able to even talk, and yet he can still do this. And he's trying to clock the man closest to him, my father, to join in, and how that, you know, that's been something I'm aware of my whole life, that you can end up around, what do you call, like, there's a murder of crows? It's a something of a storm of misogyny, I guess, is what I'm calling it here. It's the weather. You gauge how bad the weather is and react accordingly, and I was like, "This man is helpless. My dad isn't noticing. I'm gonna ignore it and keep going." So I've set up the scene, right? That's how I've handled it. How can one change the weather? We're powerless, right? The weather just happens. So the story goes on. Um, I give a lot of funny proof points about my dad. I'm not gonna read them all out loud, but about how, he when I brought my college boyfriend home, he said to him in front of me, "Why are you doing settling down? Why don't you play the field?" When he, when my daughters were almost 6 and 4, and we went to visit him, and he said, "Hey, when you 2 grow up, are you going to share your boyfriends?" Like, my dad just says stupid shit like this all the time, but the consistent thing throughout all of it is that he really only sees women for their physicality, even when they are little girls. That has always been true, and I have never left my children alone where they could have to bear the brunt of my dad. We have very limited exposure, and I am always there, and I have always thought that that was enough to protect them. So now we come back to this not modern, but the current situation in the story where my older daughter's freaking out about having to go see her grandfather, not wanting to go. I assume it's her being petulant and just, she'd rather be shopping or at the beach or something. Um, but we go, and I watch her body language and the way she's responding to him. And I'm like, wow, what to me is a demented man just doing what my dad does and being like, "You're so beautiful. You could be a model. You're so beautiful. You could be a model." I hadn't really counted on that would be what he would perseverate on. And also, I didn't think about how it would sound over and over and over. And anyone who walked by our table, "These are my granddaughters. Oh, aren't they beautiful?" Um, what that underlined was, all I see is your physicality, and very lightly veiled your sexuality, right? They're grown now. They're 18 and almost 16. And how that is really icky when you hear it over and over and over. And I know he can't help it because of his dementia, but it's just that reminder of, this is all your own beloved grandfather can see you for. Um, and then the question becomes one of, Gen Z women are coming into a different landscape. They are coming of age in the Epstein era right now, as they are watching the most powerful men in the world, surface in these files for like the most awful of deeds again and again and again with no consequences, right? Almost no American ones, anyways. Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, an exception to the rule, but um, they are coming of age where the subtext is screaming at them. It's the front page text, basically, of if harm comes to you, it doesn't matter. Your bodies are not important. And your family should be the safe spot, right? But here your own grandfather is not in his own way. So it really was hard to go through that because, as I referenced earlier, usually we're a united front, the three of us, and that felt super strong enough to take anything. Like, this is nothing. It was just like, pff, we deal with this, then we go get, coffee and we go home and it's all fine. Let's go back to the beach. But this was actually traumatic for my child, or she was showing signs that it looked like it was. And it was a really strange spot to be in, to be caught between, oh my God, I haven't protected her, and oh my God, she's really overreacting to this very small scenario when I put up with so much more from this man my whole life, right? Should I have? I mean, when I was younger, I couldn't get away from him. And then the kind of, I want to read another part of this. Um, or do I? I'll read the ending, and then we could talk about it because I've already spoken to the other sections. Um, and this is coming back to the weather metaphor that I read earlier. Most of my life, I treated comments like my father's as something to endure, not challenge. It was the weather, you dressed for it. But endurance has a cost I didn't fully calculate until I watched my daughter shrink behind her purse. How often does endurance quietly become permission? My daughters are coming of age in the Epstein era, watching powerful men surface in those files again and again while facing almost no consequences, watching their own rights erode in real time. The accommodations my generation made, the ones that felt like pragmatism, may look to them like complicity. I'm not sure they're wrong. I was raised to dress for the weather. My daughters may decide they're done bundling up. They may want to move to a different climate altogether. What I do know, for me, I need to pay my respects and visit my dad for whatever hours he has left. My moral code demands it. But my eldest turned 18 this year. Call is already hers, and I will need to accept that. The next morning, bleary at the crack of dawn, I went I want to find my way back to them, to check in, to joke, to be a united front. One of the hardest parts of parenting through yesterday was that we didn't experience those moments together. I was lumped in with my dad on the wrong side of it all, at least in my eldest's eyes. We weren't a united front of smirk. She was aggrieved, and I was the aggriever alongside my father. We make our way through the airport. TSA pulls my younger child's backpack aside and checks inside her sketchbook, her journal. We all exchange knowing looks and giggle. What security breach did they expect to find in a teenager's journal? They let us through. We order Starbucks. We find our gate and plunk down with our phones. My eldest reaches for her hairbrush and looks in a mirror. I look cracked, she laughs. I look at her and smile. Hey, has anyone ever told you you look like... Don't, she says. But this time it's with humor, a shared chuckle. Enough time has passed in the past 18 hours. It's funny now. A model. Oh yeah? Nice big melons you've got there. Oof. Fair, I respond. She shakes her head, fixes her bangs, and we all put on headphones and await our flight back home together. And maybe that's the only way any of this works. We survive the cringe, make the joke, board the plane, and keep trying to raise girls who know the difference between a compliment and a reduction. And that's how the story ends. intentionally ambiguous because I still don't know if I did the right thing. My I mean, I do in a way because my gut is saying, "You yes, it was the right thing to do to have her see her grandfather in a way for her, just like it is for me. That might be our last visit. We never know. She only comes once a year. He's 81. He's about 300 pounds. He's, he's hanging in there. Like I'm shocked he's alive. If it's kind of a terrible thing to say, but he has not taken good care of himself at all. And yet there he is. He persists. And so we never know, what the future may hold. But now I would really like to hear your comments. I think now is a good time to shift the conversation. And I want to hear, excuse me. Sorry, I've been holding that in. Um, it's making me lightheaded. Okay. I want to hear your thoughts on, there's lots here. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm getting a head rush. I'm just going to smile and enjoy the filter. Right? This is a filter. I'm like, I do not have perfect skin like this, and my eyes are not this big. So either I did a spectacular job in my 5-minute eyeliner, lipstick application, or Substack is applying a beauty filter I didn't ask for them to apply. That said, Linnea says, I always expect to be sick after a trip. Fair. Um, Spilling a little tea. I'm sick because the guy I'm seeing is sick, and he was sick while I was away and said, maybe you shouldn't see me. And I was like, you just have a cough. I'll be fine. He's still sick. And we've both been sick now this whole time. So I am pretty sure it was that and not the flight. Although it could have been the flight, but it's the same symptoms. So I think that's why I'm sick. Let's see here. So what I would love to hear from you about is all these well wishes. Thank you. And Lynette, thank you for providing some context in the title. I really appreciate you jumping in and doing that. Okay, there's not a ton of so here's one. Um, oh, Here's a comment from Rose saying, I had to deal with my stepbrother telling my son he wanted to take him to a titty bar. I cut him off quick and explained why he was wrong. I chose not to laugh it off. It must be stopped one family member at a time. Fuck yes. Rose, he did good. He did good. That was the right thing to do. Um, you will notice if you read the story, I don't let my dad's remarks go unchecked. I don't cut him off. I don't say, we're never going to see you again. I would if things got more egregious. But with both my mom and my dad, I've had to say things. My mom, it's mostly around food and her being like, I'm so bad. I ate, half an apple. And sort of all the food guilt that I've had to say, please don't talk about food like that in front of my daughters. I don't think it's healthy. And with my dad, it's usually because he says things about, who are you going to marry? Who's your boyfriend? And also that's kind of the only tool in his toolbox. I'm laughing because I have 2 mugs of tea and the regular mug is full but cold now. So this one is still warm. So it's helping my throat. Rose, how old was your son when your stepbrother said that? I'm scared you're going to say like 8 and I'm going to want to go punch your stepbrother, but good for you for speaking up. Laura says, it was perfect. Always follow your gut, girl. Thank you. I make no claims that I'm ever perfect. I still stand by that we all needed to go. I think we all know our kids, and I love both of my children to the moon and back, and everything in infinity plus 1. And also, I know that my older child can be a bit manipulative about things. And I think that while it was uncomfortable, I think there's empathy at play there too, and there was stuff to learn. That said, the story posted to Substack and to Medium. It did get boosted on Medium. Yay! But the algorithm doesn't seem to work well. It did well for one day, and now no one's reading it again. And that's a story for another day. If you are a Medium member, go read it over there and comment on it so I can make a few pennies. Um, but the comments I've gotten on Medium, some of them were really interesting, and a couple of them were from people telling me I was being abusive because my daughter told me she was uncomfortable and I didn't listen to her, and that the rule should be that girls and women can always opt out of situations where they're uncomfortable. And 99% of the time, I agree with them. And that's what makes this essay interesting, because I still feel like if my dad lived close by and we were on point to take care of him regularly and to go see him regularly, what I would probably put into place is you can go see him infrequently, maybe once a year. I expect you to show your support. And if this is the level of what he's doing, I think you need to show up. I would love to hear from all of you. So where is the nuance there of here is an barely woman. She's just turned 18, and that's just a legal definition anyways. She's a high school senior. She still lives with me and is learning the world. If she wants to opt out, is she allowed to opt out of who she exposes herself to? I would love to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to read, I see there's some comments here. It's the glasses. I'm not sure what it's the glasses. Do you mean the fact that I think there's a beauty lens? No, this is absolutely, look how big my eyes look. I have very small, squinty eyes. It's really catching my eye because I keep thinking I'm in Snapchat. So I know it's a filter. And they're trying to make, maybe Substack is like, if we make the women on here better looking, more people will come here. I don't know what this is, but I mean, I'm guessing it is something like that. I'm a little annoyed they didn't ask. It's a consent question, right? Like, I'm not mad that I look good right now, but I also am a little mad because I didn't ask. I didn't say yes to having my physical presence altered. Shayla is asking, have you had a talk with your daughter about your struggle with your decision? I haven't yet. Honestly, it's a heated topic. And we are also right now in the throes of negotiating her final college decision. We're having hard conversations about money. She's doing a final essay for like a scholarship application. So I'm prioritizing the emotional load. But I will have a conversation with her. And that actually might be the most interesting part of where this goes next. Here, Tarek. My father had a parenting philosophy that we should parent in sevens. First 7 years you dictate. Next 7 you negotiate. Next 7 you advise. And then they go off in the world and with whatever tools you gave them. I love that, Tarek. So she's in the final 7 where I advise. So technically, I don't get say anymore is what that philosophy is. And I think 14 is a little young to give that much lenience. I can think of specific examples where I said no and still had to parent. Yeah, I don't fully agree with that. I think in those teen years, actually, they need your guidance, and they need not very often. You have to. I would say like I very selectively have had moments when I'm like there's a boundary. But for the most part, I agree with that. And then the other part of it is about, I think what I have said before is that college is the final decision that I get a say in as her parent and her father too. That the choices that a person makes about where they go to college and the level of debt they take on to go to college in the U.S. will have a profound impact on me and on him, as well as on the structure of her life. And so it is my job as her parent to help her make the most informed decision possible. It's not to say yes or no. I mean, it's my job to say no to no, you cannot go to X school that costs $70,000 a year without a scholarship. That would just be a no. We have not saved enough. I will not let you go into that level of debt. But she didn't do that. Everything is more nuanced. So I see that as anything after this, she owns the decision, and I am here to consult and to help her investigate. But um, it's my opinion at this point, right? At that point, because she will be an adult. But I really like that, Tarek. That's giving me a lot of food for thought. 777. I take that. Let's see. Lynette says, honestly, I'm not a mom, so I don't have that experience, but I do think we need to be exposed to all kinds of people, and you did not send her in alone. I think you modeled the right behavior. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Um, it's hard to parent to throw out enough rope for freedom and growth, but not enough to hang themselves. June and July, wise words. Bob says there is no such thing as contagion. I'm not sure what that means. I'm living proof that there is. I am a ball of contagion here. Um, June and July again. It's so hard. I took care of my dad one-on-one at the end for 5 years. Wow, that's a long time. Hoping for impact. There was only the impact of my personal commitment. Not much else changed. Wow, that must have been hard to reckon with. I'm sorry. Um, Linnea says I'm not a mom, so I'm not qualified. I don't think that's true. I value your opinion, so you're qualified. But I am a Gen Xer, and we were drilled in visiting parents even when uncomfortable. And if your daughter knew that there would be a visit when you went to Florida, she shouldn't be surprised. I think the Gen X pragmatism is something that serves us well. I do think it's good to challenge it in regard to misogyny and sort of the things we accept. And I value my daughters immensely for what they add to the conversation. My dad made me live with food guilt. My daughter calls it out all the time. Ginger, I have, I have essays written, and there will be more to come about that, about food and family of origin stuff. Am I glitching? Because on my phone, I'm looking like a robot. I'm looking at the other camera now. Oh, you can kind of see my kitty in the background. I can see what I'm looking over there. If you guys look to the hold on. I can't real oh, she's like let me turn my camera a little. That's Josie sitting on the curtain. She's very old and diabetic. And the heat vent is right there. So that's like velvet on a heat vent. So she's very happy sitting there. Okay, I'm glad it's not glitching. Let me see here. Tarek says, ultimately, I think it's less about right or wrong and more about we make choices. We manage the outcomes and adjust, hopefully, in whatever way aligns with our values. Yeah. Lynette says, I do see what you're saying about how what is to be endured or called out. No, I was not abusive. Thank you. I bristled at that. I was like, you can challenge my decision, but it does not meet a bar of abuse. But I didn't, I wrote back and said, I appreciate your feedback. And, but I'm not taking that on. I am not abusive to my kids. My daughter seems like yours, maybe. I'll have to watch you more. Oh, Polly, I would love that. Please follow along. Hit that subscribe button. I'm a lousy YouTuber. I should be saying that. Press the little heart. Click subscribe. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, absolutely not abusive. Thank you. I don't know that love should be transactional. You look blurry to me. I know, I always do, and I think it has to do with my lack of knowledge around lighting. In this seat, I especially feel like I look a little blurry. I also think part of it is my glasses that they're a little smudgy all the time because I need to replace them. Like the lenses are just scratched. Do I look less blurry when I don't have glasses on? Yeah, no, I think I still look blurry, but that might just be because my vision is blurry. There, now I see me better. Okay. It was what time it made a good teaching point for her and what to look out for next time she's in a situation like that. You can't shield them, but give them language. Oh, you're telling me I'm beautiful inside and out. Laura, thank you. It's the beauty filter of Substack, apparently. June and Julie, I have all your feelings and I cannot articulate them. It's helpful to hear you make words out of my thoughts. That's the best compliment. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you. It is brutal wrangling the words out to create a new essay. So when I do and it resonates, that fills my writer heart. So thank you. Rose, you are doing college decision time with your daughter too. You should DM me and we can talk about final decisions. I think we are 99% decided on her school. And I'm very excited about it. So Laura says, when you can read my comment on the page. Ooh, let me do that. How many comments are there? There are 11. This shouldn't be too hard to find. 9 more comments. Laura. Oh, there it is. I will read it right now. Yes, Laura Tompkins, this is you. So deeply, Dana, I truly understand that you want and perhaps need your beautiful girls to respect their grandfather. But sometimes, as I have done with my own pop, who is no longer here, it's so important to respect the inner voices of your beautiful daughters, especially your eldest. They have you and their dad to look to for love and integrity. Whatever you choose going forward, I trust and believe that you will make choices that matter, not just for your girls, but for you. Much love. Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say, Laura. I really appreciate it. It's beautiful. Thank you. Tarek says, ooh, I have a question. Does their dad have any say in their activities when with you? My ex and I are 99% on the same page about parenting, but if she was going to let my girls go away with their grandmother, I would have opinions. Um, we have a lot of trust, which is, first of all, I'm 1,000% very lucky. Their dad is wonderful. And I told him about this. I told him beforehand that she was not wanting to go, and he was aligned that she should go. I haven't talked to him about this essay. I should send it to him and see what he thinks. But he, I think he knows what my dad is like, and he is fine with the very, very low level of support, or not support, but the level of contact that they have and that I'm there. Yeah, he's okay with it. So that's a great question. Excuse me. If he were all closer, he might come too, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. He always asks about him, but my dad always asks about him and by name. And he remembers that about a year and a half ago, he broke his shoulder, and he'll ask me, how's his shoulder doing? And I'm like, I can't believe you remember that. But there are rocks that stick. That's my next essay for Friday. The rocks that stick for him. It's really unusual. But this visit, I reminded him that we were divorced, and he was surprised. And I was like, yeah, for a very long time, well over a dozen years. And he used to know that, but he forgot. So that happens. Let's see. Gen X didn't have choices. We have the pain, and we are in the best position to let our kids know they have choices and can make boundaries when uncomfortable. True. Redheads rock. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. Not that I'm a real redhead. Let me see here. It's so hard. Polly says it's so hard to let your kids be independent and still share wisdom with them these days. Polly, it is. And there's a very interesting shift that has happened culturally, and it definitely happened in the space between Gen X and millennials, where it became okay to cut off your parents. I know of very few Gen X folks who have done it, and when they did, it was in really extreme, dire circumstances. And we were probably the first generation to talk about it at all. But I do think, as we talked about earlier, there is this sense of they are your family, and you limit as much as you can, but you don't cut off unless it's extremely dire. And that's my belief, or I wouldn't still be talking to my dad. I don't regret that belief. But I think starting with millennial age folks, there became more of a you cut them off. You cut them off. And I'm not saying everyone is blithely doing it, but I do think it is in the zeitgeist so much more now that there is a lower bar for when people will do it. And so by my kids' generation, there is part of me that's are they going to read this story one day and be like, we cut mom off because she talked about this and because she made me go do this traumatic thing with my dad? And so there's some fear in it that makes it hard to try to explain tough lessons. And I think that's the job, that's a parent's job, is to sometimes make their kids do things they don't want to do, especially when they're younger, to be like, this is building resilience, or this is like, you don't want to do your chores, you don't want to do this homework to get to this grade that, will help you get to your goals. Like, I'm going to tell you you have to, because that will help guide you to becoming a better person. I will tell you you're not allowed to go smoke weed with your friends, because I'm your parent and I'm not supposed to tell you that you're allowed to go do things that are illegal that will damage your brain. If you sneak and go do them, I'll be none the wiser. Subtext. But we don't, there are parents who these days are like, oh, I let them smoke at home because, it's better than them being out. You get a lot of that out here in the Northwest where weed is legal. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be permissive like that. I have told my, not much. It's like my kids are begging for this stuff, but I was just talking about this with another parent of how do you parent your kids through these times and lay down laws about certain things of no, you're not going to that party because I know what's going to happen at that party and it's not safe for you. I think it is our time to parent. Sometimes we still have to do that, and it's hard. So let me come back to the questions because they're rolling up the screen here. Oh, I'm so glad you two aligned. That makes me breathe a sigh of relief. My ex and I, yeah, me too. It makes my life infinitely better. So thank you. Like Laura said, I think grown men don't just get respect just because. If a girl is uncomfortable around them, there's a reason. I wouldn't push them to be respectful just because. The grown-up needs to be someone who models respect. There's just so many creepy men. I completely agree, Rose, and I have never let my kids have much exposure to my dad at all. Like I said, I've always been there, and when he says dumb shit, I have challenged it, and that's as much exposure as I will give him because of what he's demonstrated. It's the consequences of his action. They have to be respectful, as in I want them to show up. He is now, he has dementia. He doesn't know what he's doing. They need to be respectful of that he's repeating it because the essay gets into this, I want to redirect him. I want to correct him. I want to try to protect my kids from this barrage. But how do you tell someone to stop doing something they don't know they're doing because they can't remember they're doing it? So you can't. So it was a really interesting problem to be negotiating in real time. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that the boundary issue of parents and children, even adult children, yeah, this is a fascinating age to parent because I'm trying to launch them, right? They're supposed to be independent. Um, and so some people that's you just toss them out and they figure it out. And I'm like, no, my job as a parent of kids these days is to remain checked in and to be providing a different kind of support and guidance. But I am now, so this is a final question I will leave you with. Hold on, I'm looking down here. My son is grown and in his 30s. We smoke together because he's an adult. Absolutely. Once they're adults, have at it. But when they're teenagers, I have had very frank conversations with my kids because I think you have to about I'm not doing this to be mean. I understand that it's, weed is legal here. I don't think it's the end all be all worst thing in the world. I have tried it. Lots of people we know have. You may want to when you are older, especially as creative types, but for your developing brain, it can do a lot of harm. I try to explain it in ways, and I think they get it. Um, Enabling them versus letting them make some mistakes, but not the horrible lessons. 100% Polly. Stumble, bump up against things all the time, but don't let them go off the cliff. But yeah, you want them to make some mistakes because otherwise they get out of your home and the first mistake they make is diving headlong off the cliff because they never learned how to self-regulate. Um, Yeah, Jay Lincoln. I'm a Gen X too, and now when I watch movies with from the '80s, I'm like, man, yeah. I put on 16 Candles for my kids years ago. I was like, this is such a cute movie. Don't watch that with your kids. It's not a good movie. Um, let's see here. So here's a question I will leave you with before we go, though, is what do I do going forward with both of my children? The next time we go back, assuming my dad is in a similar space, mentally and physically, do I let them decide? Or do I own the decision and say, get in the goddamn car? get into place. Um, and I will add a V2 to that question that I was hoping. Actually, we'll save this for the Sunday salon. At the Sunday salon, I want to add a layer to this question, which is money, because that money and power tends to come into these equations. And there is a financial, uh, small, but part of this story that I think is worth exploring. But we're already over the hour, so I will save that for the Sunday salon. That is where that is my weekly live where I have an intimate gathering with my paid subscribers, and we go deeper into some of these stories. So I know a lot of you on here are already paid subscribers. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If anyone else would like to support me and is able to, I'm going to put the link in here while you drop your answers about what I should do for our next trip, and maybe a why if you have one, because I always like a good why. Here is the subscribe link. I'll put it in the chat. It is $4 a month to come on as a paid subscriber. I would welcome, I mean, obviously, we all welcome paid subscribers, but it truly does help me bring this memoir project to life. So I really appreciate you all dearly. Let me see what the answers are here. Um, Let's see. I would let the girls decide. Okay. That's what Rose says. June and July says it's not either or. Sometimes I think that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's very Gen X of you. And now I'm singing that song. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. But then another side of me thinks life will do that for all of us. Should we decide the hard? Yeah. Rose says, great convo, Dana. Important topic. Thank you. I think so too. That's why my little memoir stories are actually like pretty big cultural conversations. This was just an ordinary visit to see my dad. And when I went to Florida, I was like, I wonder if I'll get another dad essay out of this. He frequently makes me think. And now I'm like, yes, a big one. Um, let's see. Respect is one thing to keep family ties, but we don't tolerate the abuse. I agree. And I think keeping a family tie means spending it comes down to an hour a year for my kids with them, or maybe 2 hours if we stayed. I think maybe we stayed about an hour and a half. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for your input here. I'd let the girls decide as they get older and have voices. Excuse me, I don't think it has to be an either or. You can negotiate and challenge them to offer compromise ideas. I love that, Tarek. Are you still doing Crone Cocktail Hour? V for Violet asks. I am. It's once a month, and it's with Karen Marie Shelton, who is in the chat. You know, she's having some technical issues, but and it's with Oceana Teffenhart, and we do it on the new moon, which I think we're making our way to. I would guess it's going to be in the next week or so. I can look up when it is, but Karen, if you're in the chat, when's the new moon? And we'll pick a date for the Crone Cocktail Hour. Thank you for asking. We have so much fun doing those. If we can't eliminate everything that makes us uncomfortable. It's true. I think it is very Gen X of us to have these conversations and to question ourselves in self-reflection. It is because we're the generation trying to break generational cycles of trauma, but we're getting it from both sides. And it's a challenging spot to be in. Linnea says new moon is on the 19th. Yeah, V for Violet, for the first couple of them, we did them a week apart. But now we're doing them once a month for the new moon, and they're for intention setting. So it'll be somewhere around the 19th of March. I have something on the 19th. Oh, either on the 19th or 20th of March, I'm getting my hair cut and colored. I'm very excited because look at how mousy it's getting, all the brown coming in. So that's it. It will be once a month. I should make a page for it. Cool. You're totally down. We will see you there, Ms. Hughes. So my thought is that for the next time, I will probably have a big conversation like this, and I will present why I think and why I've made the decision. But I will say, certainly for my eldest, this is your call now. And there may be repercussions from my family about that, but I mean, my mom won't care. Probably because she hasn't spoken to my dad in 30 years. She would probably be like, hey, I don't talk to him either. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I do think that my daughter has challenged me and woken me up a bit to say, yeah, um, I did say once she was 18 that she gets to own a lot of decisions, and this is probably one where I need to let her make the call. We'll get into additional questions about that um, on Sunday. But yeah, that's today's. We are the sandwich generation in between the boomers and Gen Z. We're in between the boomers and millennials, and then the Gen Zs are one behind the millennials. But um, yeah, we're just the teeny tiny generation. Wouldn't have it any other way. I love being Gen X. Thank you all. What a nice, oh my gosh, we just really jumped in size. I think bunch of folks joined later. So I'm going to put the link to the story here again. Oh, wait, it's jumping down to the comments now. Let me take that part of the URL off. I'm going to put the link, excuse me, back into the chat. Um, if you've read it already, I thank you. If you haven't, I would love if you would read it. And I would especially love if you would comment or especially restack it and share it with your audience. That helps signal to Substack that this is a popular, well-loved, engaging kind of story. I am quite small. Dana Dubois Writes is such a small publication. It's really hard for it to get air on Substack. Political stuff is what tends to drive, all the noise. I would love to get some attention on this because this is driving a broader cultural conversation around consent and misogyny in the era of Epstein, and how we parent through it. And I think those are really important conversations to have. So thank you for joining and having that conversation with me today. There will be a new essay on Friday, and it is I'll call it a sister essay to this one because it's an older story from my archive, and it is about another visit. But this one focuses more on my younger child. But it's another like what I learned from parenting these amazing Gen Z kids, and observing her with my father. So it will be similar. And that will go live first thing Friday morning. And then Saturday at noon Eastern time, I will go live again to talk about it. And then the Sunday salon will explore each story more deeply, and we'll kind of talk about what's happening in our culture around aging, dementia pulling back, kind of anger, but the misogyny that lingers underneath, and how to parent our kids through these kinds of things, and how to help our elders through their final stages gracefully. So, and I'll spill some tea because I have more tea to spill around. I really want to dig into how money becomes part of these conversations about why women sometimes tolerate bad behavior. Because even in this case, there is a layer of that. Not as severe as in many of them, but money and power are always at play when women are being marginalized, I'll say, like this. So I've gone on long enough. Love you, mean it. Thank you so much. I'll post this recap shortly. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you again for being here. Bye.